Sometimes life feels like it should have been simpler than it turned out to be. You look back at moments where one choice, one conversation, one temptation that seemed small at the time ended up shaping entire seasons of your life. And you wonder what things would look like if you had trusted God's voice instead of the pull of the moment. That quiet ache, the one that says, "I was made for more than this," doesn't come from nowhere. It echoes the very first story written about us. Because before our regrets and before our brokenness, there was a garden, a breath, and a man formed from the ground Adam. His story isn't ancient in the sense of being distant. It's ancient because it is rooted in every one of us. Before there were nations, wars, or cities, there was the simple invitation to walk with God in His presence, to live without shame, and to choose trust over curiosity. And it's in Adam's journey that we see both the beauty of our design and the weight of our decisions. Adam's life begins with God shaping him from the dust of the earth and breathing into him the breath of life, marking him not just as a living creature, but as a being crafted for relationship. He is placed in Eden, a garden overflowing with abundance, beauty, and peace, where every need is met and every day is lived in the presence of God. Nothing about Adam's existence is accidental. Every detail speaks of intention and closeness. He is given purpose, authority, and a companion when God forms Eve, showing that humanity was always meant to flourish not in isolation but in partnership. But within this paradise lies a boundary, one tree whose fruit must not be eaten. It isn't a trap, but a reminder that love requires trust and freedom. When the serpent twists God's words, appealing to desire and sowing doubt, Adam and Eve step into the one choice that fractures everything. They eat, their eyes are opened, and suddenly what was once pure becomes shadowed by shame. They hide from the God who used to walk with them in the cool of the day, and the harmony of creation groans under the weight of their decision. The fall is not just an event. It becomes a wound carried by every generation. Yet even in judgment, there is mercy. God does not abandon Adam. He clothes him, promising that one day a descendant would crush the serpent's head and undo the curse. Adam is sent out of Eden, not as a discarded failure, but as a man still held by God's purpose, called to work, to build, to lead his family, and to carry hope even in a broken world. The presence of God does not disappear. It simply follows humanity into a new, harder chapter of the story, whispering redemption long before the cross is seen. From Adam's story, we learn that boundaries from God are not burdens but protections. The question is never whether God is withholding good, but whether we trust His heart enough to obey even when we don't understand the full picture. Adam and Eve stepped beyond God's limit not because the fruit was irresistible, but because the lie that God is holding out on you sounded believable. Today, that same lie still whispers through temptations, urging us to chase satisfaction apart from the one who made us. But Adam's fall reminds us that crossing God's boundaries always costs more than it promises. We also learn that shame makes us hide, but God always comes looking for us. Adam ran into the trees, covering himself, trembling at the sound of the God who once brought peace. But God still called out, "Where are you?" Not because He didn't know, but because He wanted Adam to step out of hiding. The presence of God brings conviction, yes, but it also brings restoration. In our own lives, when we fail, God isn't looking to expose us, He's looking to heal us. The same voice that sought Adam seeks us too. Finally, Adam teaches us that sin can break things, but it cannot break the plans of God. The fall was devastating, but it wasn't final. Even in the moment of judgment, God planted the seed of redemption, showing that His love runs deeper than our rebellion. Your story is never ruined beyond repair. Just as God moved with Adam outside the garden, building a future from the fragments of the past, He can breathe new beginnings into you. The presence of the Holy Spirit restores what shame tried to steal and rebuilds what sin tried to destroy. In the end, Adam's story is not simply about the first man who fell, it's about the God who refused to leave humanity in the dust. It's the story of creation, temptation, consequence, and mercy all woven together to show that even when we walk away, God walks toward us. And as we reflect on Adam's journey, we are reminded that our beginnings may be humble and our failures may be real, but God's purpose and presence outlast them all. His voice still calls, His mercy still covers, and His plan still redeems.